Yo, welcome back to another First Descendant video. Today we have on the video chopping block is the ultimate Blair. Now let's see what the devs got cooking with this one.
So, what's my role? Cook or arsonist?
All right, so normal Blair wasn't one that I really kind of focused on. I kind of got it to 40 and just left it alone and went on and left him on the back burner. But now with a few updates and I heard he got a few buffs, we're going to be looking at Ultimate Blair and his kit and his mods. Now specifically, we're going to be showcasing the two mods that came out with him, but we're going to briefly go over the other mods as well, and also how I have those two builds as well. All right, so let's get right into his passive. So his passive is called Pitmasters. Now, any damage you do, you will inflict burn. Now, when you inflict burn, you will increase your critical hit damage and increases your critical hit rate based on the number of flame zones that you create on the field. That's very important. You kind of have to take some time and build up your flame zone to be able to build up the buffs you need specifically for him. Now, keep in mind that he is a fire character, so if you're going to be using this character to try to solo Gluttony, it's just going to take a little bit longer, just like Lepic. Remember that Gluttony does have a critical hit, a skill critical resistance, so keep that in mind. It might take a little bit longer, so you might hit big numbers with the Frostwalker, but keep in mind if you're going to try to solo Gluttony with this character, it's going to take a little bit more time. Now, your critical damage is it's 10% that give you, but then your flame zone, every one you have, which is max out to 5, you can get 5%, which means you can get 25% skill critical hit rate. That is just based on the number of flame zones you have. And we'll go over specifically how you're able to see your flame zone and what powers also give you flame zone. Now, going over his skill 1, his skill 1 is called Blaze Up. You spew fire and it creates a flame zone right at your feet. And now again, this is a flame zone that you are creating, so you can spam this. You can bring your cooldown quite a bit and just spam this and you will have flame zone. Now with this specifically, if you're trying to work with this, you're going to want to cool down a lot and you're going to want to have a big amount of range as well. Right now you only have 3.5 and that can obviously go up to 250%, which give or takes about 7 meters. So you don't want to go past 7 meters if you're trying to look into building into range. And as you have the flame zone, you will be doing burn damage. Now, your burn damage is your DOT, damage over time, that you will be allowing. So you can put a little duration if you want to specifically build into that, just to allow your DOT to last a little bit longer out on the field. The damage specifically on the burn is only 80%, skill power times 80%. Now, the second ability is very unique. There's a few things we're going to go over and timing of everything just so you guys can understand the best way to kind of really utilize this. Now, your second ability, what you're going to do is when you have Flame Zone out on the field, you're going to be able to see these icons on the right side and you'll be able to see how many flame zones you have out on the field. Now, I can't tell you specifically. I've been able to see over 13-14 flame zones, so I don't know where the cap is specifically at, because it says it's supposed to be around 5 to 7, but I still seem to get more, but doesn't matter. What ends up happening is, based off the amount of flame zone you have out on the field, you'll be able to activate your 2, and what your 2 does, it actually takes like a flame soul. It comes to you like a flame orb. Now, these orbs will replenish some of your MP. So this MP recovery is based off of your max MP times 8%. So you could just make sure you have full max MP just to be able to absorb as much as possible. But on top of that, you do get a skill power modifier of 6%, and you're able to move a little bit faster as well. Now, keep in mind, because the flame orbs have to come to you and there is some time before it actually comes to you, you want to be able to time your abilities just right. Specifically on some of the builds we're going to show you later, I kind of show you like a good rotation to specifically do that. You just want to make sure you remember that it's not instant. Specifically, you're in this normal build that is instant that you get this MP recovery. You got to wait for them to come to you. So just keep that in mind. There is a delay, but you are going to get some MP recovery based off of this. Now, your third ability is called Burn Taste. This is pretty much a flamethrower right in front of you. Now, this does not leave a flame zone, so keep that in mind. But you could build a little bit more range on top of this, so you can hit a few more, hit a little bit further out. But on top of that, you'll be able to have 7 meters as well. Now, this does do a lot more damage. This is 457% times your skill power. This, I tend to use this quite a bit just to keep laying down fire. There are some mods that you'll be able to change this to something else, but this is a really good one. You bring your cooldown often. If you bring your cooldown and your duration just right, you'll be able to constantly just, once it's done, pop another one up right away. All right, and his fourth ability, Deadly Cuisine, fires a giant fireball. Now, this fireball does an explosion. I just keep calling this the spicy meatball. So what you do is you make a giant orb, and the comment ends up going right. You make a giant fireball, and it goes to your enemies. And then when it explodes, it also has smaller fireballs that come out, and then those fireballs leave a fire zone for you, a flame zone. So that also helps you keep more zones out in the field. The more zones you have out on the field, the more you'll be able to extinguish and get more MP recovery and be able to get right back into the fight. Now, this has a really high cooldown, so you want to bring this down a little bit more so you're able to use this a lot more often. Now, this has a couple things going for it. One, remember, it does have a initial damage, the burst damage, which is your skill power times 1.628%. So you get 1600%. And then the flame balls after that do their own damage of 2400%. You might want to target the fireball near the target, but off of it a little bit so that the actual small fireballs actually also do damage nearby as well with their burst damage. So you'll be able to really do a lot more damage specifically on this. And you do have your constant DLT as well. All right, now we already talked about specifically his base kit. So let's go ahead and start showing the Transcendent mods you can potentially use for this character. All right, so we have new Transcendent mods, which I'm going to be showcasing you guys, but I also wanted to just go over specifically the other mods that you have for him as well. Some of them are kind of unique. I think some of them are pretty interesting, and some of them I think they need to be reworked a little bit. So the first one we're going to go over is Incinerating Bomb. This is pretty much what it's going to do is almost like chucking a grenade. You chuck a fireball and a little zone pops up. Now, the only problem I have with this is the zone specifically has a really like the flame zone is really small. Normally you have a 3.5, you actually have a 2.5 specifically, so you have a really small flame zone. I would like to see this flame zone get a little bit bigger for this ability, especially since this is specifically just for his one ability only. Make the ability more unique. I would like to see that changed up, maybe something else, but at least when I first tried this Transcendent mod, I noticed that it was really small and I had to really adjust it to have a bigger range. And then when I did have max range on it, I felt like that's where it should really be at. So this is Incinerating Bomb, like chucking a fire bomb, nothing too crazy. I would like to see this be reworked and to make it more unique specifically. All right, the next one we have is Backdraft. Now, Backdraft changes a lot of his passive abilities, specifically on his second ability. So it looks like it changes all the icons, but it really just changes your second ability. Now, when you extinguish, you're going to get weak point damage per zone on top of your MP recovery. You're also going to get firearm attack and also some movement speed as well, which you would normally get as well. So if you want one that specifically deals with weapon damage, this is going to be very good. You can use this for Colossus if you have really good weapons specifically. I prefer more of a skill-based approach when it comes to Descendant, but if you have a really good weapon, you have maxed out and amazing stats on it, you can go ahead and pair this up with him and you would do some really good damage, weak point damage specifically, on top of the actual damage from the weapon as well. You still get your MP recovery, like I said, but you do change it where you are working more with your weapons here specifically. All right, and now the next mod is Classic Chef. Now this pretty much just gives you more flame zone and also skill critical hit rate based off of those flame zones. And when you use your fourth ability, instead of having three fireballs, you're gonna flame zones. You're gonna actually have five flame zones. So you're just giving yourself a lot more opportunities to have more flame zone on the field. But like I said, I've been able to have quite a few out on the field even without using this specifically. So I don't know how good this is. If anyone else who uses this mod can let me know. But I don't notice a big difference. I seem to. It just takes me a little bit longer to get that many flame zones. But it's possible. I don't know if this mod is still really that great. I played it a few dungeons and just didn't notice too much of a difference. Again, I think some of these mods I still think they need to be reworked a little bit because they all seem to be going based off of the flame zone and just changing how the passive works. I would like to see like really good complete overall works on them, but that's just me personally. Maybe I'm not seeing something, but if you guys see something and you guys are more experienced, leave a comment down below for that. All right, and now we're gonna go into the two mods, Killer Recipe and the Next Level Recipe. Now we're gonna go over one of my favorite one first, which is Killer Recipe. It's also very unique, and it's gonna take a little bit longer to understand how it actually goes. So let's go ahead and show you not only the build, but also the actual effects and abilities. So now, Killer Recipe, what it pretty much gives you is anytime you inflict burn to one of your enemies, it could be any enemy, it could be a mob, it could be a colossus, doesn't matter. When you inflict burn, you have a unique bar underneath your MP. Now, this unique bar is called Chef's Touch. Now, as you inflict burn from your first ability and your third ability, you're going to be able to actually build up your unique bar, Chef's Touch. Now, what does that do for you? Now, it does change a few things out for you. All right, now you have a Spice-A-Meat Ball. Now, that's your first ability. Now, this is pretty much Flame Ki Blast. So you think of Dragon Ball Z, and as this actually works off of your endurance. Now, the longer you have your endurance, the longer you're able to keep doing these ki blasts. Now, the only thing I will want from this ability is to cool down to be a little bit lower so you're able to actually almost like whenever it's done to be able to repeat it over and over. Now, you do 472% damage, which is really strong. It's one of his strongest ones of the other abilities that he has. If you are not really good at hitting your target, lining up directly in your crosshairs, you will mess up. And if you don't hit the target, you don't get the unique bar resources to be able to build that up. So if you want to, you can add a little bit of range if you want to, but normally you should be pretty good. Just aim for the feet and you should be pretty good. And again, it goes based off your duration. So if you leave it right now, this is only lasting for a few seconds, but the longer the duration, the longer you'll be able to keep throwing out more ki blasts, which eventually will give you more unique bar on your Chef's Touch. Now, his third ability didn't change. It does exactly what it did before in the other times you've seen it. It does a flamethrower pretty much in front of you. Now, this again does inflict burn, so this will work with the Chef's Touch. So this is probably one of your fastest ways to get that unique bar all the way up. You will see it build up really quickly when you activate this because you're getting constant burn, which will keep that bar getting up really high. So again, your 1 and your 3 are going to give you your burn. Now, your second ability changes quite a bit. Now, as you see here specifically, they took away the speed boost for your movement. It took away a lot of the other perks you saw. This is only MP recovery. But what's really good about this one's called Temperature Check. This is immediate versus where you had to wait for the flame orbs to come to you and there was a delay. This is immediate. Depending on how many flame zones you activate this, you get MP back right away. This is and as you see on the above, it goes based off of your Chef's Touch bar times MP at 5%. But what I do like about this one specifically, like I said, is instant. You don't have to wait for it. All right, and now his fourth ability specifically. Now, the fourth ability is called Deadly Feast. Now, you cannot use this ability unless you have some sort of energy in that Chef's Touch. You can have 1 bar, you can have 3, 5, doesn't matter. You can have it maxed out, but you need to have something in that Chef's Touch bar for it to be usable. Now, the best way to describe how this is almost like how basic Sharon has that scan ability where she scans specifically the targets and then she locks onto a few targets and then does her move and throws out the daggers. This is very similar. You see your crosshairs, you're going to see red, and then when you see yellow, you are locked onto your target. And then you can go ahead and activate your ability again or trigger, and you'll be able to fire out. And as you see, you're shooting out 5 balls is your max, but you can target up to 6 characters. So you can look around, but normally you're going to be using this to try to get as much as possible. And once you lock into your targets, you'll be able to shoot out 5 balls. And this does 2,600% damage, which is pretty solid. Now, going over his passive specifically, it gives you skill critical hit rate at 25%. It gives you skill critical damage at 10%, and then your modifier at 30%. So it does give you quite a bit of actual buffs here. On top of that, when you land an ability, doesn't mean that every single time you land an ability or a DLT, you're going to get that chef's bar up. It is a 50% chance for every time you hit something for you it to give you 1 bar. Now it is pretty lenient, but again, if you give a higher duration on your first ability and your third ability, you would have no problems at all if you land your target to be able to fill that up. Now, you have 10 bars max is your max on there, but on top of that, if you happen to walk away or don't do anything for 20 seconds or fall off the map, you will lose your entire bar. All right, so now let me show you real quick the actual build that I've been using. All right, so now this is the build that I've been kind of using, not only for dungeons, but even for some Colossus builds as well. Now, why would I use it for a dungeon? Well, I personally love how fast I have my cooldown right now. I have 3 seconds on my third ability. I can constantly keep a flamethrower going no matter what. I'm constantly doing that, which is really good. Now, for those who are far range and I can't hit because they're so far, but they're shooting me, then I can go ahead and activate my first ability. With my first ability, I have it all the way down to 4 seconds. And even with the components, the external components, this is 4 seconds is the lowest I've been able to get it to. You can try using other mods or other stuff to try to get this lower, but you still have a delay. There's a slight delay, and it doesn't matter how your cooldown is. It's just something about the power. When you're done, you have to still wait it like a half a second before you're able to reapply the power again. Where the third ability, because of how fast I have it, it seems to work immediately. So there's like a slight delay. I would kind of like to see that kind of change if it's possible, because I feel like that delay would be nice to just be able to remove it, to be able to spam that key blast as much as possible. I think that'd be really nice for those really far targets. But again, keep in mind your 1 and your 3 ability are going to be your ways to build up your chef's touch. So in my specific way, I have it built out. I have focus on dimensional and focus on fire. He does all dimensional pretty much. The only thing that's singular is your second ability. Everything else is dimensional. So you got cooldown, but you also got damage multipliers on there as well. I got battle stamina for some HP, but also skill duration. I realized that the higher the duration, the better the damage you do specifically. Even if you put something like this where you have more duration, but you're bringing down your skill power modifier even to 21%, I noticed either 2 to 5 million damage difference just by having the duration up a lot longer. So it's something that you want to keep in mind, something I would say to test it out yourself. I was testing it out and I noticed 2 to 5 million damage difference because of my duration from either my first ability or my third ability. I've noticed that damage difference specifically. On top of that, I have MP conversion, nimble fingers for your double cooldown effect, and then I have skill extension for more duration, and then I have the basic crit mods you're going to pretty much use: emergency measures, front lines, and I'm using skill concentration. I feel like I have a good enough crit rate to be able to land a lot of crits when you have all these mods landed up for you. On top of the chef's touch ability on his passive to give you some as well. So I tend to be pretty solid with the crit rate on here. So I'm doing critical damage to be able to scale this. And that is pretty much how I have this specific build out. Now let's go ahead and show you guys a few things in the dojo with this. All right, so let's go ahead and show you guys. As you see, there's an empty bar below my MP. That is the actual chef touch bar. And if I go ahead and activate my first ability, you will start seeing it build up. Now you notice I actually spanned out quite a bit of key balls, but I only got 4 bars. So keep in mind, like you said, there is a 50% chance for that to work out for you. All right, the next ability is your third ability. Like you said, like you know, it's the same thing. But if you see the numbers, because I have all the critical hit damage and all that, I'm hitting for 1.2, 1.7. Now, just with the third ability, because I have the duration so high, you're able to see that I have pretty much a full bar. So the duration is pretty solid on top of this. But like I mentioned before, because I have the cooldown the way it is, to watch the difference between my first ability cooldown and my third ability, how I'm able to activate the ability and re-engage again. As you see, there's a slight delay after I'm done to be able to reapply. And it's almost like the power needs to be able to turn itself on to reuse. Now, my third ability, I can activate it right away with no delay. You see, there's no delay when I activate my ability. Now, what I do like about, again, his second ability is very unique because you don't have to wait for the orbs to come to you. There's no orbs. It's all about that bar that you have below you. I'm going to keep spamming my abilities.
Burn, baby, burn.
On purpose. Alright, I'm going to do this on purpose. I'm going to wait for it to pop up. Alright, now you see when I activate my 2, I got more than half my MP on this, which is really solid. So depending on how you're using your abilities, you just want to keep in mind that when you're getting really low, you want to be able to activate your ability again. One thing I keep in mind specifically is my 4th ability has a high cost to it. So you might want to, before you activate your 4th ability, which is your ultimate, which we can go ahead and do that here. Like I said, you're going to have crosshairs. Oh, it went away. You can't activate your ability unless you have Chef's Touch on there. Alright, so your 4th ability, you're going to be able to see knives in between your crosshairs, but then on the target is locked is yellow. So you go ahead and activate it again, and then all the fireballs go to that target. Now, one thing I really do like about this ability is, and his kit, is there's no range drop off besides on your third ability. So if I'm far away, I lock on, I can hit the target all the way over here and still land the damage. And same goes for the key blast. So if you're really good with your key blast, again, if you're going to hit from really far target, it might be tough to snipe, but we're going to see we can hit it. Like I said, there's no drop off on range, which is really solid. Even again, no matter how far you are, around this corner, I can lock on all 5 balls. Boom. Good to go. Now, one thing I learned specifically of this ability, if you have less than half of the Chef's Touch bar up, if you only have half, then unfortunately you would only do 4 to 3 balls. You will not be able to get all 5 balls. You want to make sure you're at least half of your bar to be able to get all 5 balls to come out. So in this case, we're going to go ahead and, all right. So now I don't have any more, so I can't use it. So we're going to spam this, and we're going to stop it there. So there's 3. Now you're going to see only a few balls come out. Only 3 balls came out. Boom. But if you want to be able to hit all of them, you're going to need to make sure you have all your bars. At least, you're going to want to make sure you have at least half of your bar. So now let's see if we can get to 5 bars or 6. Let's see. Let's see if I can land it. Might have to wait. Okay. All right. All right. So we, in this case, we have one more than half. So we have 6. But now when you see me press my fourth ability, all 5 balls come out. So you want to make sure that you at least get half of the bar before you use your fourth ability. And it doesn't make any difference how many balls you have. There's no scaling of damage on your fourth ability, but all 5 balls is your max. And with all 5 balls, you're going to be able to do the most damage as possible. But if you do less, then you have less damage you do. So just keep that in mind. There's no scaling based off how many balls you have to your skill damage. Is actually based off of the actual damage from the balls, and how many balls, which is max, is 5. One thing that would be really cool is if they had some sort of explosion effect to go with it to hurt nearby targets. That would have been really nice, just like how they do for your deadly cuisine ability with the spicy meatball. When you throw it, the big crater on top, it'd be nice to be able to see that big explosion to also be able to affect nearby targets. Unfortunately, this doesn't. It's more like single target damage specifically, so just keep that in mind. All right, so the next ability we're going to go over is called Next Level Recipe. Now, Next Level Recipe is very unique. I tend to see this as only really a dungeon specific builds to do more AoE damage, but you do change up 2 of his abilities. Now, you no longer do where you spew it underneath you or chuck a grenade or do key blast. What you actually do is almost like how Valby or Freyna will leave a puddle behind as they walk. The more you walk, the more you have a chance to drop a specific flame zone specifically for you. So let's keep that in mind. This is your way to drop flame zones. So you're going to want to be able to roll around. You're going to want to grapple to another point and kind of get more yardage as much as possible. So you're able to keep dropping more zones for you. Now, the only thing I want to say is, as a little caveat to everything, is this is a really, really high MP cost. It is 80 for a skill 1. One of the highest I've ever seen on a skill 1. This is really high. So when you're using your abilities, we're going to be talking about rotations, how this can help you when you're actually using this ability. Now, your 2 doesn't change at all. It does give you your movement speed specifically on your 2. So your second ability don't change at all. You still get MP recovery. You still have some movement speed and some skill damage. With this, I have a lot more duration on here, so I can keep those buffs going as much as possible. But this, like, unfortunately, like the other one, this you have to wait for the flame orbs to come to you. So we're going to be talking about rotations in a little bit, but just keep that in mind. You have a delay before you get those MP recovery back. Now, your third ability is Hot Delivery. Now, there are ranges specifically for this. Now, I would just say go max range as much as possible to help you out when it comes to this. This specifically goes off of range to be able to go from level 1 to 2 or 3. There is no scaling. It just goes based off your range. So if you have really high range or max range, you'll be able to get to level 3. If you don't, you're going to be in that 1 or 2 range. But you really want to make sure you're at level 3, because as you see from the actual movement ability above on over here to your left, that one is just like your normal flamethrower, but then you activate the level 3 and it's covering almost a 180-degree coverage. Now, it doesn't specifically say it here, but there is a slight bump in movement speed when you're using this one versus your first ability or any other abilities. You will see how the movement, even just seeing it visually, he looks like he's moving a lot more faster. So when you're using this ability, you are faster, but if you cast your 2, you'll be able to keep that duration to be able to move a lot more faster, and you're covering more ground when it comes to that. Nothing changes to your 4th ability as well. It's just your normal 4th ability. But now let's go ahead and show you the build specifically I have for this mod. Now, specifically for this, there's a few things I've been trying to keep in mind. And again, there's a couple mods we're going to be talking about as well. And let's actually, before we go ahead, I just want to go over one mod that is very unique. You have something called Veterans Tactics. So if you are needing more cooldown specifically, this is very unique. If you have any space specifically, I would recommend probably putting this in there as well. This will randomly give you 90% 90% chance for a cooldown to go faster, which could be really nice for you if you don't have enough cooldown. If you're asking for more, this would be really nice to have on there. You just have to defeat an enemy, and if you're using this build in a dungeon, most likely you're doing that anyway. Another ability mod that's really nice that you can use is multi-talented. Because most of his skills are going to be dimensional, you'll be able to squeeze out a little bit more cooldown if you want to on this build, or any build specifically. If you want to use this, this is really nice to have as well. Now, going over specifically how I have mines, you have HP, again, duration. I'll be able to keep the burnout, keep the buffs going with on his 2. So that makes sense. You also have MP conversion, cooldown, obviously. Dimensional and focus fire makes sense with the nimble fingers cooldown. Now, I have defense and skill power just to give me a little bit more damage, but also because I was going into dungeons a lot more often using this build, but I was having some tough times fighting all the enemies and not dying, so I added a little bit of defense to help me out. You could also take this out, and if you start working on your arcade tuning, you'll be able to remove this. And if you have higher HP and higher defense, you might not need this, but for me specifically, I needed this in the dungeon, so this was why I have it. But this is something you can take out as well. Now, I do have your double crit values here. I have your front lines and emergency measures, because I want to be able to maximize on his passive ability that critical hit rate. I want to be able to do more damage, and having these two with that just going to make sure that that critical lands. So that's just something that I'm playing with specifically. And then I have skill expansion and frugal mindset to not only keep away the costs of this specific ability, because this is a high cost, but it also gives me range. On top of that, you also have skill range, a skill expansion to give me more range. So we're hitting that max range specifically on the third ability to be level 3 to go ahead and do what you got to do. Now, I want to go ahead and showcase some tips and tricks when rotation specifically for this build. All right, so you cannot use your second ability until you have some flame zone out on the field. Now, keep in mind when you activate your first ability, as you continue to walk, you will leave zones. You don't have to actually press it again, which is really nice, because the other ability you would have to, normal Blair, you would have to keep pressing it. This will just go based off of your movement and how much you are moving. Now, if you want to be a little bit faster, one thing that was recommended to me specifically, you can put brisk walk on here. So when you are doing dungeons and you're being attacked, you can put this on there and be perfectly fine, getting a little bit more movement speed specifically. But as you see on the right hand side of the screen, you will see flame zones, and you will see that slowly keep gradually going up higher and higher. And this is something that you want to keep in mind, because again, the more flame zones you have out on the field, the more you be able to absorb when it comes to your second ability. So let's go ahead and activate our second ability now. You're going to see all those flames orbs coming to me, and boom, perfect. Now, if I had less energy, I would be able to recover. But so we're going to mimic that in a little bit. And then again, your third ability will also help you with that. Now, your third ability, as you see, I am doing full range on here. Let's see what the range would be if you were to put the character in line. So if you have a wide range like this, let's say we go into the middle of it, activate your third ability, you see that I'm hitting pretty much all 6 targets. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. Again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you got pretty good range on this, on your third ability. All right, so the rotations are going to be really to start off with your one ability. You should really always have your one ability always working, so you have those flame zones to be able to use your second ability. So in this case, I have that going. Now it went away. Now eventually you're going to go ahead and press it again. Now with this being out, I can press my 2 to go ahead and give me some energy. Boom. Now I'm good to go. Now I'm going to press my third ability. Now before I press my first ability, I'm going to press 2 so I can quickly press 1. Now when I press my first ability, as you saw, the orbs came back and gave me almost full HP, so MP, so I can go ahead and do it again. So we're going to go ahead and do that. We're going to activate second ability, activate my first ability. Boop. and I got all that back. It's almost like you start fresh again, which is really nice. So if you're really good at your rotations, you'll be able to go from 3 to 2 to 1 and then back to 3. And just keep constantly doing this. 2 and then 1. Orbs come to me. I'm able to go again. And again, because I have high crit rate and crit damage with everything I have, the numbers are pretty much hitting 1 million for every single time I hit something, which is really solid. Which is why you're going to be really melting a lot of these enemies. Press your second ability, press your 1, and then again, rinse and repeat. Now, if you want to throw your fourth ability, you definitely can. The only thing I would recommend would be to have a little bit of energy before you activate that. So before I activate my first ability, I'm going to hit 2. I'm going to hit 4. And I'm going to hit 2 again. I just activated that fourth ability to give me more zones. And then I'm going to press my first ability again. Remember, your fourth ability will also give you flame zones as well.
That's enough.
And that is the rotation. As long as you can keep in mind how you want to go from 1, you want to start off with 1, then you're 3, then you're 2. Or if you're really low on MP, as long as you got enough flame zones out on the field, you go ahead and press your second ability to get some MP back. But that lag, that time that you're waiting for the energy to pop up, I find it the best way to do it. Like I said, before you press your first ability again, which costs a lot, unless you bring it down to cost a lot, is to activate your second ability. While the orbs are coming to you, you're going to quickly go from 2 to 1. You're going to see that difference. You're going to see that bar get right back where it was, which is really nice. Just keep those rotations. Again, this is mostly for a dungeon build. And as you see, the numbers are pretty high. Now, me specifically, what I have going on above me right here, I found that having high duration with the 2-piece duration set, with the 2-piece cooldown, this is what I've been using lately. Now, my gold reactor above is a dimensional one that has gold cooldown on it, and the other ability, not the greatest, is some sort of faction on there. So I've noticed that, again, focusing on cooldown on some of your builds are going to be very important depending on the Transcendent mods you do. The duration is also going to be very important because the damage that you can do will be significant. The longer you have your abilities going out doing damage, the more damage you will actually be doing. Not just your base damage, but even the actual burn DOT damage. So this is kind of what I've been using lately, specifically here. The only thing I would change specifically if I'm doing Colossus build is I would have a cooldown, and potentially I would also have a Colossus damage as well on there. So you can change this up how you guys want. This is pretty much how I've been using him specifically. This is my ultimate Blair. I'm curious to see how you guys been using ultimate Blair. Now, I did have a chance to go to arcade tuning and specifically go to cooldown to keep that cooldown as low as possible. Now, if you want to go ahead and grind out all these other abilities to go get your MP, which is your HP, which is really good to have, and also your skill power, I think is really good to have this side specifically for him. If you are really good into that, go ahead and do grind that out for you specifically. But for me, I wanted to get that cooldown to see how low I can really bring that cooldown for him, and I've been loving it this way specifically. Now, a lot of people are going to say, he doesn't seem like he's as good as Freyna. He's not as good as Inez. He's not as good as Serena and Bunny. He's not. Now, why would you ever use him? Sometimes you just don't want to keep using the same character over and over. This game is a very grindy type of game. And if you're into that type of game, you're going to be bored of a certain character over some time. Now, don't get me wrong. When it needs to be quick, sure, you can swap into those characters. But if you want to have some fun and change things up, the game is really about grinding your characters, grinding your tuning, your parts, your components, your mods, and then getting all the characters. So why would you ever use them? One, just to max them out, collect them all like Pokemon. You want to make sure you have all the descendants and you're able to actually use them specifically. And if you do want to use them, and you want to use them specifically for a Colossus, or if you want to use them specifically for dungeon, this is how you can use it. And this is just my personal take on this character. Now, I'm curious to see what you guys been using Blair. How have you guys been using him? Is it very similar Are you using the OG mods? I didn't really find too much luck with the OG mods. The one that actually gives you a bigger fourth ability and you actually throw down. I've been able to see some really high numbers, but they're not always useful. Again, if you're going against Frostwalker, it would be really good. But a lot of times that just wasn't cutting it for me specifically. I'm just curious to see how you guys are using it. I want to say thank you for clicking on the video. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for liking. And if you did enjoy this type of content, please let me know down in the comments down below. I haven't made that much the first in the content. I've been taking a little pause on that, and I'm trying to see about going back into it to make these guys specifically for these characters. This character just obviously came out, and I wanted to make a character built on him. I think his skin looks cool. I think he looks pretty cool. I think the kit needs to be worked on just a tiny little bit, but I think overall, I think he's a really good character. He's not going to be as good as those other characters, but again, I just feel like you might just get bored of using those characters, and then sometimes you want to change it up. And that is pretty much it. So I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.